Hello, good afternoon to everyone here. Am I audible to everyone there? Line check करो, line check. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. I am Zeel Barad, student of Department of English. It gives me a great pleasure to welcome you all to this online session of National Seminar on Research Prospect in English Studies organized by Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Bhavnagar University. I would warmly welcome our esteemed chairperson, Mr. Dr. M.B. Gaijan sir, Head of English Department, Shamadas Arts College, who has an experience of 30 years of teaching as a college teacher, and he is also the former student of our department, and Dr. Bhavesh Parmar from Government Arts College, Garyadhar. We will soon begin our online session of our seminar, and this session is also live streamed. As per the instructions given, already shared in the WhatsApp group, StreamYard allows only 8 people presenters to enter the studio. So we request the presenters to leave the studio once your presentation is over and join us on the live stream. Reviews will be given by chairperson and that you would be able to listen on the live stream. One important instruction is all the presenters are requested to stay strictly adhered to the time of 9 to 10 minutes. We will alert you on the completion of the 8 minutes. All the presenters are requested to let us know when if you are in the stream and in the studio, and if there is any technical issues, we request you to cooperate and let us know in the WhatsApp. We would begin our presentation uh, with Chitra M. I hope Chitra
Chitra
Manoharam is in
Manoharam
the
is in the
studio.
studio. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I'm here.
Okay.
Okay.
Uh,
Uh,
you can
you can
uh, switch on your
switch on
camera,
your camera,
share your
share
screen.
your screen. Very good afternoon to one and all. Ma'am, am I able to hear? Shall I go with my presentation, ma'am? Shall I start my session? Ma'am?
Chitra ma'am is facing some network issues. We will connect to her later. The next presenter is L.Swathi. She is.
Ma'am,
Hello, ma'am.
am I able to hear?
Yes, you are audible. Are you able to hear us?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so are you ready for your presentation?
Yes, ma'am. I will.
Okay. Okay, so you can.
Ma'am, shall I start? Ma'am, shall I start my presentation?
Okay, we think Chitra ma'am is facing network issues, so we will go for the further presentation by Swati L. We find her in our session, in our studio. Swati ma'am.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon. Are you able to hear me?
Okay, ma'am. So you can start your presentation. Swati ma'am can start.
Okay. Let me start. Shall I? Am I audible? Is the audio clear? Shall I start the presentation? Ma'am, is my audio clear? I'm not getting any response. Shall I start my presentation? Okay. Okay, let me start. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Swati, a research scholar from Bharati University, and I would like to acknowledge my co-author, Dr. B. Padmanabhan, assistant professor and my research supervisor from Bharati University. And the paper to
The
be
paper to be
presented is
presented is
entitled as
entitled as
Hunger is Hunger,
Hunger is
Food
Hunger,
Politics,
Food
Cultural
Politics,
Identity
Cultural
and Social
Identity and Social
Stratification in
Stratification
Kashmir
in
through G.N.
Kashmir through
Gauhar's
G.N.Gauhar
Pun-Te-Paap.
Pun-Te-Paap.
The
Ma'am,
cultural
The
and ethnic
cultural and ethnic
coexistence in Kashmir
coexistence in
is one
Kashmir
of
is
its
one
most
of its
renowned
most
features,
renowned
which is
features,
termed
which
as
is termed
Kashmiriya.
as Kashmiriya.
The multicultural coexistence in Kashmir is possible because of the socio-geographical differences with marked distinction in their food, fashion, architecture, language, and religion. The plurality of the culture of the region is manifested through various cultural symbols. This research article focuses on food as a cultural symbol to determine cultural identity and attempts to discern the determining conceptualizations of food politics in the multicultural society. Food has greater significance by playing an important role in constructing identity through the sense of culture embedded within it. Another underlying meaning exhibited by food is the socio-economic factor of an individual or a social group, which also reveals their position in the ladder of social stratification. Food politics deals with the power and policies involved in the production, distribution, and consumption of food in a society influenced by the social class system. In case of Kashmir, the geographical terrains also contribute to food politics and cultural differences. Let me state the research problem of the paper. The study employs the theoretical framework of Max Weber's theory of social stratification to discern the food politics that prevail in Kashmir because of the class distinctions. Through Weber's theory, the paper interprets the factors that influence the imbalanced production, distribution, and consumption of food under three levels, such as class, status, and power among the people of Kashmir. With the novel's particular focus on Muslim and Gujar communities, the paper limits its discussion to the differences and inequality in food culture between these two communities. Hierarchy is deep rooted in any social structure. Gesellschaft implies to society, or Gemeinschaft, which implies community. Stratification in the society is classified based on three major factors, which include class, status, and parties. Classification of class, status, and parties are purely determined by the economic, social, and power structure, which are closely intertwined with each other based on the possession of property and assets, honor, prestige, and social action. The stratification prevailing in the society culturally influences the practices and preferences of the members of the society. For instance, people belonging to a particular stratum of the society prefers for prefer a particular lifestyle which signifies their class and status, where the preferences may be privilege to wear special costumes or to eat special dishes which are a taboo to others. From the perspectives of food politics, the production, distribution, and consumption of food supplies, and food culture are highly influenced by class, status, and power, as it is considered as one of the privileges for having preferences and the reasons of inequality. The novel Pun-Te-Paap exemplifies the differences on food culture built on the hierarchy of the society. The major characters, John and Yaqub, around whom the plot revolves, belong to the upper stratum of the society, the elitist, whereas their love interest, Reshma and Nazir, belonging to a tribal community, are considered to be the lower classes in the society. Therefore, both social class and geographical location of Kashmir Muslims and Gujars cause the difference in the production, distribution, and consumption of food. The focus is laid on the Kashmiri Muslim families in the novel to interpret the role played by social, economic, and geographical factors in the preferences and consumption of food. John is the son of Haji Amiruddin, a philanthropist and a rich businessman assimilated with moral values and generosity. Haji's background clearly exemplifies the class status and power held by John's family and his ancestral history. Haji is respected for his intellectual and cultural insights. According to Max Weber, I quote, class distinctions class situations become the dominant reason for eligibility for selection to a stand, that is status. The possibility of a stand related conduct of life naturally tends to be conditioned economically. In other words, economic condition contributes to both class and status, whereas status additionally includes prestige and honor, the sense of dignity, which relies on the beauty and excellence of the individual. Pertaining to the economic value of property and assets, Weber defines, I quote, characteristics of ownership differentiate the class situation of the property as well as the meaning that the use of property can give, especially the money value of it. These distinctions, in turn, determine whether they belong, for example, to the class of pensioners or the class of mercantile manufacturers. I unquote. Haji represents the class of mercantile manufacturers with high level of reputation, categorizing him and his family in the highest level of social strata, providing easy access of all aspects of the society. Yaqub is the other character in the novel to represent the elite class, featuring a member of the class of pensioners as he is the son of Mansur Shah, a highest ranking official of subdivision, that is Tehsildar. Families in the novel are portrayed to explain their capability to effortlessly acquire the production, consumption, and distribution of food products. Since the family of John belonged to the class of mercantile manufacturers and privileged class, the family members establish their class status and power through their lavish lifestyle by preparing waswan for their guest, which is a grander food culture in Kashmir. In the novel, Haji invites for a collective meditation for the speedy recovery of his injured son John. The congregation asks for lofty waswan dishes to exhibit his reputation for the invited dignitaries through his hospitality. The novel explains the role played by class and status in determining the food preferences of an individual. In this regard, it is evident that Waswan dishes belong to the category of grander lifestyle and are not affordable to everyone in the society, emphasizing the importance given to the class and status of Haji. From the perspectives of food politics, I quote, food implicates matters of production, reproduction, distribution, and consumption. Food also incorporates questions of economy, state society relations, and environment, as well as the intimate issues of personal, social, cultural, and bodily status and identity. I unquote. The economic
The
and social
economic and
class of
social class of
Hello, ma'am.
Haji compels him
Haji
to make
compels
a
him to
choice
make
of
a
food.
choice of food.
Ma'am, it
The
is reminder
instance
to
The
wind up
relates
your
instance related to
presentation.
Haji,
Hello. It's
sorry,
8 minutes
I'm
sorry,
already.
I'm not able to
hear clearly.
hear
Hello.
clearly.
It's already 8 minutes, so you have to wind up your presentation in 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
do it. Thank you.
I'll do. Thank you.
The instance
The
related to
instance
Haji
related to Haji
exemplifies the role played
exemplifies
by
the role played by
economic
economic
order,
order,
and
social
power
order, and
structure in
power
the
structure
day-to-day
in the
life in the urban spaces of Kashmir. The quality of having preference in food without any worry about finance or availability and access categorizes them in the top of the social strata and contributes significantly to inequality in the process of food consumption. In food politics, inequality starts with individuals' choices similar to Haji and Mansoor's family. Gujar community is the second group from the novel considered for the argument on food politics, taking the economic and geographical factors into consideration. The inequality in the process of consumption of food is analyzed. Gujars are nomads in tribes of Kashmir reside amidst the mountains and forests far removed from the urban spaces. Their background and ethnicity push them being categorized under the class of propertyless because of their frequent movement and temporal settlements. In the society of Kashmir, Gujars are determined as lower in class structure and they acknowledge themselves as backward class. Nilnag being situated in the high altitude mountains of Kashmir, it is not viable for the cultivation of crops except maize, walnuts, and saffron. Though the region is filled with natural resources, certain food supplies like salt and other grains are not produced there and have to be transported from the plains, which is a challenging process. So the region faced shortage of food supplies and products often depicts the inequality prevailing in the society. According to the topographical barriers, I quote, the stratification by status and class goes hand in hand with monopolization of
Monopolization
ideal
of
and,
ideal
Hello, ma'am.
and
We are
material.
requesting to wind up your presentation, please.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm about
Yeah,
to
yes, ma'am.
conclude.
I'm about to conclude.
Okay.
Yeah. The specific honor of stand, which always bases itself upon distance and exclusiveness, there are all sort of material monopolies. Gujars being farmers, sheep raisers, and laborers classified their category of working class people are not able to afford huge capital on food. The cumbersome task of getting salt is affected by both topographical and economic hindrances. Concluding, food politics is a serious global issue, gained the attention of international policymakers who attempt to determine the factors that affect the inequality in the process of food consumption. They include differences in environment, economy, gender, and the influences of modernization. Globalization directly or indirectly imposes alien food habits and distorts the preferences of the traditional and cultural ethno food associated with the identity of the society. These differences and transnational transitions are the root causes for hunger, poverty, and other socio-economic issues. Economically, food culture is categorized based on the social stratification developed on the class status and power distinctions. Thank you.
Everybody keep blaming on the
Thank you so much, ma'am, for the insightful presentation.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yes. Okay, I'm present. There is a request to every presenter to keep their camera on so that we can show you in the live streaming also. Our next presenter is Sapna Yadav, and her topic is A Post-Colonial Discourse on the God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. I would request Sapna Yadav to make her presentation.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sapna Yadav, Assistant Professor at Government Girls College, Lalsod, Dosa, Rajasthan. My topic is A Post-Colonial Discourse on the God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy. This research paper is based on the post-colonial analysis of the novel The God of Small Things by Arundhati Roy in the light of characters Amu and Veluta. Subaltern voice is presented through the powerful characters of the double colonized Amu and the ruthlessly othered Veluta. It also attempts to demonstrate how a specific discourse with a history of colonization and religious instability is responsible for the formation of many post-colonial attitudes. The most important being the hybridization of controversial social groups as seen in the group examples of Amu and Veluta, which further triggers the condition of colonial desire through the blurring of social and cultural boundaries between the lovers and finally culminates into a ununified and soaring subaltern voice, the voice of the marginal group. This paper also explores the concepts of double colonization, hybridization, and colonial desire in the God of Small Things. On the whole, all these cultural and social implications mentioned above encompass the main themes of the postcolonial novels. This study examines the Indian Arundhati Roy's postcolonial novel, The God of Small Things, which presents and reflects the issues of the postcolonial period. Arundhati Roy was born, grew up, and educated in India. Roy, in her celebrated novel, The God of Small Things, tells the story of a Syrian Christian family in southern province of Kerala, India. The main plot is constructed around this family. Retired imperial entomologist Papachi Kochamma is the father of the family. Upon retiring from his job in Delhi, he returns back to his hometown, Amman, with his wife Mamachi Kochamma and his two children, Amu and Chako. Amu, their daughter, several years after their arrival, experienced an unhappy marriage with a Hindu man, which ended in divorce. Amu, after divorce, comes back to her parental house with her twin, Estha and Rahil. Amu and her twin began to live in Ayman with Mamachi, Chako, and their Aunt Baby. Chako, Papachi's family's son, is sent to Oxford to continue his education, where he meets his future English wife Margaret, but their marriage ends in divorce in the same year. Then Chako, leaving Margaret and his daughter Sophie Mall in England, comes back to Ayman to his father's home. Roy's story revolves around the events surrounding the visit made by Sophie Moll's Chaco's daughter and his ex-wife Margaret and his drowning of Sophie 2 weeks after their arrival, leaving behind a disintegrated family. Margaret never forgives herself for not listening to her friends and taking Sophie to India, but she understands her mistake very lately after her losing her daughter in India. Sophie Moll's drowning is a metaphoric sign of the hegemony of the Eastern over the European, which has power to swallow up the colonizers easily. This is also the power of the wilderness and primitiveness of Eastern that the colonial elements always fear and never resist. Postcolonial discourse mentions that the threat of the Eastern for the European is either to devour the European in the wilderness or to make the European go wild. The death of Sophie Moll in Roy's story metamorphically illustrates that there is no escape from the tragic fate waiting for the colonizer in the colonial land. As previously mentioned, the deep interaction with the colonizer creates not only the suffering of the colonizer, but also that of the colonized that recognized and felt upset and anxious about the inferiority of their own culture when compared to that of the colonizer. The feeling of the inferiority created a community that was not glad about his existence and that had no peace anymore. The colonized, having felt their inferiority, appreciated everything that belonged to the colonizer and forget their own history, culture, and language. To be precise, they transformed into a nation who had no culture of their own and felt second class, thereby struggling to become a member of the superior culture of the colonized. Thus, it is stated in novel several times, things can change in a day, implies the day on which the colonizer's arrival has changed everything in the land of the colonized. In The God of Small Things, Chako Kochamma, the uncle of the twins, describes the colonized people as prisoners of war, as a result of which their dreams have been doctored and they belonged nowhere. According to him, it is a kind of war that had occupied their mind that they have won and lost. The very worst sort of war, a war that captured dreams and redreams them, a war that had made them adore their captors and despise themselves. Besides Roy's hybrid characters, which can be understood as an evidence of the contamination arrived with the colonizer, in order to prove how dreadful suffering the arrival of the colonizer has brought to the colonial land, the day on which Sophie Moll come to India is used as metamorphically, and it stands for the coming of the colonizers. Sophie Moll, with her English mother Margaret, comes from England to India to see her Indian father. Chako, her coming to India is important because it stands for that of the colonizer and in what ways it has brought about the suffering of the people in the colonial territory. Roy explains throughout the novel the great influence of Sophie Moll in disturbing the tranquil situation in India and the destructive effects of her visit. The most shattering effects can be seen in the Esther and Rahel character, both of whom had not seen each other since Esther's return in a train with his pointy shoes ruled into his khaki-holed all. Rahel, immediately after separation of Esther from Ammon, loses her mother Amu too. Rahel also loves her Ammon and her twin brother and wander from school to school. On the whole, Sophie Moll's arrival to India changed their fate and caused all these destructions events. The life
Hello,
in
ma'am.
Ammon
Sorry to
before her
interrupt, but
arrival was
hello.
peaceful and tranquil. Roy, in illustrating the Ammon, maintained that however, it was peacetime and the family in the Plymouth traveled without fear or
Hello, ma'am.
forbidding. Sophie
We
Moll's
are requesting your hello.
hello.
We are requesting to wind up your presentation because it's 8 minutes.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
Within
ma'am.
1 minute, I will
Within one
wind up.
minute, I will wind up.
This is
This
obviously
is obviously
observable when the
observable.
boy portrays the situation as you could not see the river from the window anymore, and there has come a time when uncles become fathers, mothers, lovers, and cousins died and had funerals. It was a time when the unthinkable becomes thinkable and the impossible really happened. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful presentation. Our next presentation, first some instructions. If once the presenter complete their presentation, they are requested to leave the studio so that the other presenters can join the studio. And those who are not having their presentations in the live session are also requested not to join the studio. The next presentation is by Saundarya Kumar. I request Saundarya Kumar that he can start his presentation.
Am I audible? Okay. Shall I present? Good afternoon and all present here. I'm Soundarya, doing MPhil research in Department of English and Foreign Languages, Bharati University, Coimbatore. On behalf of my co-author Dr. P. Padmanabhan, I would like to present a paper under the title Textualizing Gender Performance and Social Media in Olivia Switch's Sympathy. People in digital era where science and technology have transformed and revolutionized every facets of their lives and converted their existence comfortable one. Through science and technology, nature has given innumerable benefits that have lightened people's hardship and obstacles. There are both negative and positive effects due to usage of scientific technology. When people are using science and technology in positive way, it makes their life comfortable. But when they are used in the negative manner, it can cause malediction and forces many social evil in the society and lead the society towards destruction. The degradation of the society due to the lack of moral codes paves the way for younger generation to indulge in acts that harm the society. The increased use of social media is accompanied by ethical and privacy issue. The privacy issues may have a significant effect on people's professional, personal, and social life. In this modern era, it is difficult to maintain privacy in social media because of sharing information and images. Olivia's physics. So I would like to choose for my argument. The work is Olivia's physics sympathy. It is an extraordinary appraisal of attitude and behavior of adolescent girls in the present generation of digital era through literary narratives. The narrator Alice Hare is an unemployed 23-year-old graduate um, who was adopted by American academicians and then migrated to London via Tokyo. When her grandmother invites her to New York, she escaped from her claustrophobic mother for the 3 months in the city. The novel takes the form of Alice's memory about her way to establish a friendship with Mexico through social media. She became fixated on Musico, a Japanese writer the Japanese writer living in New York and whose life story has strange parallel to her own life, but she believes that she is her identical internet twin. Nowadays, people are too much dependent. People are too much dependent on digital media, and it drastically affects human lives in all possible forms. The social media is addictive and threat to the private life of the individual. In this regard, I would like to quote the words of Sendil Kumar and et al. That in social networking site, people open themselves to different sort of dangers that have the regular impact of breaking their privacy. It has witnessed that privacy may be attacked in few ways if personal information is not utilizing reasonably and dependably. I unquote. Hence, social media has the ability to break the privacy of people. Social media platforms used to intrude someone's personal life without their knowledge is considerable by immoral activity. New media is construct on the computational tools and computer-based interaction, which contrast far from the old publishing and broadcasting media. It refers to the platform that depend on the digital technology to communicate people with one another. It are backed by the computers, and the internet have hugely affects the concept of mass communication. New media like social platform, blogs, video games, online newspaper are combined with the digital technology that enhance its reach and gives the users liberty to interact at their convenience. In fact, social media and smartphones have become widely used. Increasingly, women in developed countries are using technology in their career and manage their everyday interaction. Over the last 2 decades, the internet has resulted in the important changes in how people communicate and gather information and purchase goods and services. Innovations in social media have resulted in websites that not only allow the user to retrieve information but also encourage the interactive sharing information. In particular, there has been explosion in popularity of social networking site, which is an online platform that has a main objective to facilitate regular communication among the individuals. This includes various social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as photo and video sharing sites like YouTube, Instagram, etc. Hence, population of Instagram users has normalized, and women are also using the internet at the same rate as men. Though the social media is not an accountable medium because of its one-to-one communication, still it provides to be a powerful medium in social fraternities. So here, Richard Screener sees that performance is not only the theater and actual play, but everyday everything in life, ranging from everyday life to rituals and art. Screener explains different between four performance category, which are being, doing, sewing, showing, doing, showing, doing, and explaining, sewing, doing. Being as an existence, just being, who are who we are without any effort to do or pretend to something. Doing is an any act done in the daily life. Showing doing is an actual performance when the actor acts represent the reality. And explaining showing doing is the theory talking about the performance and commencing the art. People genetically inherent a strong desire to connect with people, mostly to share information and share their emotions and feelings. So, emotion play a prominent role in relationship to be realistic in nature. The emergence of social media influenced the exchange of emotion in short span of time. Users who spend more time on social media networking sites tend to have lots of unknown friends. So social media undoubtedly offers high benefits for society by providing access and connection to people, information and opportunity that were not previously possible. However, it is evident that social media causes higher depression, anxiety, poor sleep, low self-esteem and body image concern. Thus, social media not only encourages the connections but also motivates the tendency to compare with one another. Finally, disagreement practices will not instantly transform a considerate person as a cruel ones. Rather, the change is achieved by gradually disengagement of self-censure. People may not even recognize the change they are undergoing. In this digital era, social media platforms are monitoring the public and they also provide the evidence for certain immoral activities. So this helps the perpetrators to change their behavior and helps to change their mindset from doing such harmful activities and helps the people to break the gender stereotypes in many possible ways. So I would like to conclude. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. Our one reminder: once your presentation is over, you are requested to leave the studio. You can continue us on our live streamed program. You will also be able to listen the reviews given by our chairperson in the live stream. Our next presenter is Thiravadurai S and the topic is Role of Animals in The Secret of the Nagas by Amish Tripathi. I request for the presentation.
I would like to present the role of animals in the Secret of the Nagas by Amish Tripathi. Amish Tripathi is one of the international icon who is doing his well. He is one of the best sellers in Indian mythology. Mythology is the body of inherited myths in any culture, which is an important element of literature. Literature is a means of extending mythology. So mythology and literature are both interrelated. So myths beautifully narrate the culture, life, and customs followed by ancient people, which are perceived in deities. If you consider mythology or myths, they have special characters. They are entirely different from fiction. You see, Amish Tripathi has taken lots of effort to rehash our Indian mythology. He has written Shiva trilogy and Ramchandra series. Shiva trilogy is the fastest bookseller in Indian history. There are so many mythological writers like Arun Shangi, Devendra Patnaik, and so many. But his writings are entirely different. His Shiva trilogy talks about Lord Shiva 4,000 years before he could be a man himself. Like that he thinks, and he has written Shiva trilogy. There are 3 books in that Shiva trilogy. The first is The Immortals of Melga, and the second one is The Secret of the Nagas, and the third one is The Oath of the Vaiputras. So the Shiva trilogy considers what is evil and how it could be eradicated. So in this presentation, I would like to talk about the role of the role of the animals in The Secret of the Nagas. Here, my objective is that why does the author choose animals in presenting a mythology? What kind of animals are selected in writing for particular mythology? And the author is choosing animals, and do they make any difference while writing a myth in that writing a mythology? So if you consider the trio like God, human, and animals, they are interrelated and they are interdependent. No one can live without the other. So the author has taken a lot of efforts to include the animals in his books. So if you take that myths like literary elements, it has some special features, and they have characters like gods, goddesses, and demigods and supernatural beings, and mainly non-human things. Non-human things means it may include animals, mountains, rivers, and natural. They also act like characters. So it will give the author certain things like they are like special symbols which could be explained by using animals, and some controversial themes can be explained, and some controversial themes can be touched through the animals. And they are animals are like powerful, unique, and strong messages can be explained through the animals, and some many interpretations. Like normally if you write using only humans or only gods, some interpretations cannot be done. For example, the author is using a snake, and the snake is meant for evil, and something some even the snake is also in the neck of Lord Shiva. So we could be considered as both good and bad. If you take it as a lion, lion is powerful, strong, and so many gigantic nature of the man can be explained through this. And if you take it as for example, harsh reality of society can be explained through animals without the interpretations of the humanity, and nobody can tell anything about the animals. All right. Oh, the author has used something different. So something like that can be used. So the author is using animals. And if you see that mythology normally deals with gods, goddesses, and some supernatural beings. So they have some powerful, they have some extraordinary power, and they may go from what is an unheard world, and it is like a dreamy world, and they pass on the culture from one generation to another. So these animals could be of a good companion to their heroes or heroines. Some extraordinary things can be done with the help of animals. So the author is choosing animals in his novels. So Amish Tripathi has taken the Secret of the Nagas, which is the sequel of the Immortals of Melga. So here the author has used lions, liger, goat, horse, bulls, and peacock and snake. So if you consider as animals, they are also spiritual beings which are subject to the same laws of creation, dharma and karma as humans. Their intelligence may not be as the level of humans, but they have some what is that same as ours, but the soul in them is the same witness conscious as ours. If you see Hindu spirituality and symbolism, animals represent both divine and a demonic nature and different forms of universal energy. Many gods, planetary deities, and demons of Hindu cosmology have animal bodies and anthropomorphic forms. So animals are inseparable in the mythology. So if you consider as the Secret of the Nagas, see, once the Bhagirat, he is one of the characters in the Secret of the Nagas. He is going on a horse, and the horse is going very fast. Bhagirat is not able to stop that horse. So Shiva, one of the tribal leaders, and he is going side by side, and he is singing some songs to that horse. It means the hero is having some control over the animals. The animal is having some what is that? Some relationship, some communication with Lord Shiva, and it is about when the horse is going to fall down from the hill. It is about to stop just a few meters away. So like that, when Lord Shiva is examining that horse, that there was some nail in near the mouth. So something like that. The author has used animals in a perfect way. See, once that snake is going around that Brahmadeva, and if you see him, the snake is used as evil, which is going to kill, something like that. So in another case, he has used bull race. Bull, if you see that there are some children are used in the bull race, so the children are used as what you call it as to motivate that animals to go faster. So in another area, the author has used peacock. The one tribe of people are using peacock as a holy one, but some others are using as like a medicine. So here there are some controversial things are coming. So in this way, the author has used the animals in a perfect way,
Hello, sir. We are
and
requesting to
he has
wind
used
up.
in a nice way. Okay, myths and
Hello.
legends from the Puranas and other scriptures. Yes, ma'am, I'll stop now. Suggests that highly evolved animals may express love and devotion to God and seek his help by praying to him. So the author has succeeded using the animals in a perfect way. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful, insightful presentation. Our next presenter is Bharati Ravin KUDCHADKER, and her topic is Increase in Domestic Violence During the COVID-19 Pandemic. I would request ma'am to begin her presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, respected session chair Dr. Gaijan and everyone present here. I am Bharati KUDCHADKER, a research scholar pursuing my PhD from Savitribai Phule Pune University, and I will be presenting my paper titled Increase in Domestic Violence During the COVID-19 Pandemic. Domestic violence, also called domestic abuse, may be defined as a sequence of conduct in any relationship that is made use of to get or retain power and control over a spouse or close partner. At present, the severity of the COVID 19 pandemic has reduced and it has become endemic in most countries. However, at its peak, the pandemic unleashed mayhem and ravaged cities and populations worldwide. The fear of contracting the virus superseded every consideration, and the governments hastily enforced strict lockdowns to curb the spread of the contagion. Social distancing, isolation, quarantine, a new normal became part of the lexicon of day to day life. What governments failed to contemplate was the shadow pandemic, which was surreptitiously gaining ground faster even than the spread of the coronavirus. The affliction of domestic violence has been prevalent in every society around the world since a very long time. In traditional and patriarchal countries, the existence is observed all the more. What is disquieting is that domestic violence is perceived as something to be tolerated and accepted in silence by women, in particular when it is abuse meted out by the husband. In ancient times, domestic violence meant a husband thrashing his wife. In the present, the purview of the phrase has been increased greatly. It comprises any type of violence: physical, mental, sexual, and financial. It also includes violence done to children. The shame of a wife accusing the husband of committing domestic violence is frequently what thwarts the woman from informing about it. The anxiety about the social customs and traditions and worries about her children are what fetter her to a life of recurring beatings and agony. Financial reliance on the husband and absence of assistance from parents are what keep her tolerating in silence the brutality that is inflicted on her on a daily basis. In addition to the physical violence, frequently the emotional anguish of her husband's insults and taunts are sufficient to destroy her self confidence, and these leave her shattered and vulnerable, unable to protect herself or take the help of legal aid. Therefore, in such a situation, the malaise of domestic violence has grown and prospered with impunity. Though women have been suffering mutely against this violence in their homes, their plight grew worse when governments worldwide declared lockdowns due to the COVID 19 pandemic in March 2020. When the COVID 19 pandemic was ravaging the world with savagery, this affliction assumed menacing implications for millions of women the world over. Fittingly called the shadow pandemic, stay at home orders had only expedited the spike of these heinous incidents. Stay home, stay safe was the battle cry of every government, and it had become a hackneyed phrase in these times of chaos. Aside from the obvious fact that one could vanquish COVID 19 by staying confined at home, what was neglected optimistically was the fact that many women ended up being incarcerated in their own homes with the wrongdoer. They had no means of escape and nowhere to go during the days of lockdown. To add to their troubles, they were withdrawn from the general method of communication with their extended family members. Continuous 24 by 7 monitoring by their partners guaranteed that they could get no private space to make that urgent phone call to contact their support systems for assistance. Often, women had no phones to call the helplines, and traveling to their parents' homes became impossible due to curfews and travel restrictions. Being isolated from all help, these vulnerable women and their children were made to suffer the humiliation of recurrent domestic abuse without any remedy of help or intercession. Women in India lodged more domestic violence complaints during the first 4 phases of the lockdown in India as compared to a similar period during the previous 10 years. According to numerous articles published in the Indian Express and other Indian newspapers, there was a huge rise in the number of complaints of domestic violence during the lockdown. In just 4 months, from March to July 2020, the number of domestic violence cases lodged was more than 25% of the total complaints registered in the last 3 years. These writings give us the chance to bring into the public domain and deliberate upon this critical, though often unexposed issue of domestic violence. It also sets out ideas about how we might structure our societies more fairly in the aftermath of a pandemic. Without initiating a dialogue on these abominable crimes, these odious acts would persist freely without fear. The shame and socio-cultural conventions create an unwillingness in putting the family and its confidential relationships to public scrutiny. Therefore, building awareness around domestic violence is crucial, including conceivable deterrent and alleviation measures. I have tried to delve into some of the causes for the rise in the cases of domestic violence. One of the most compelling reasons for the rise in cases was because of financial difficulties, loss of employment, and the climate of unpredictability that was rampant during the lockdown period. The pandemic spelled doom to many people as they lost their jobs and were confronted with a desolate future filled with uncertainty and worry. In addition, women were the first ones to be laid off, and when they were unable to pitch in towards the household expenses or supply their husbands with money, they instantly became victims of domestic abuse. Many hardcore alcoholics imbibed excessively at home during the lockdown. Whenever the liquor shops were closed, it aggravated the overall feeling of vexation, which culminated in violent attacks on their spouses. Children also had to endure their anger. During the lockdowns, the conventional aid workers from NGOs working in this field were also inaccessible. Seclusion and social distancing resulted in the curtailment of visits to the homes and lack of personal contact. Migrant laborers lost their jobs and their wives had to bear the brunt of their violence as a consequence. Schools closing down and adverse economic ramifications meant that young girls had an extra danger of being married off while they were still minors. It was apparent that during an emergency, when women and children are cornered inside their homes, they become more vulnerable to domestic violence. Generally, the difference of opinion resulting in disputes was either who will perform the household chores or whether one spouse was spending more than what is necessary. In order to eliminate this pestilence of domestic violence, the legislature must make the requisite amendments in the Epidemic Diseases Act 1897 by affording protection to women and children. I have also suggested a few remedies which need to be put into place. A vital yardstick for development is transforming the entire attitude of society towards women. More awareness on how to treat women as equals is required, along with counseling. Professional counselors, experienced mediators, trained lawyers, and psychiatrists must volunteer to help. This can be achieved through phone, WhatsApp, video conferencing, or even via mass media. Celebrities who command considerable influence over the common people must be roped in to communicate a powerful message for the protection of women and children who are incarcerated at home with their abusers. Pharmacies can be capitalized to provide some relief. When women go there, they can use furtive signs or secret code words to transmit the message that they are suffering abuse at home. Neighbors too play an important role in suppressing such violent incidents. The Bell Bajao Andolan in India summons neighbors to bang on doors, ring the doorbell, and make some noise to let the abuser become aware that he is being observed. Witnesses can be galvanized to report the episodes of domestic violence by guaranteeing that their complaints remain anonymous.
Anonymous.
Legal aid.
Legal
Ma'am, we
aid.
are
Yes, ma'am, I am concluding. Legal aid, advice, and
Legal aid,
shelter
advice, and shelter.
must be given to women facing violence. Supplying them with food, medicine, medical aid, as well as a safe refuge to stay in case they cannot return home to their families is essential. It may therefore be concluded that there is an urgent need for an extensive and unified response pattern to deal with the issues of gender based violence during the present as well as possible future pandemics. Health and wellness professionals, the media, and community efforts must be amalgamated to effectively resolve this issue. Moreover, continuous and relentless efforts are required to terminate the stigma and shame associated with it. The availability of 24 by 7 prompt counseling and availability of mental health services in the safe shelters should be designated as essential services. In a similar fashion to the national campaigns on COVID 19, the government could make use of various mass media platforms to disseminate information about the resources that the victims of domestic violence can access. Linking the present emergency reporting phone services with SMS or WhatsApp might make it easier for the victims to lodge their complaints in case they are frightened that their phone call might be overheard. Advertising campaigns can be run that reiterate the vital issue regarding sharing household work as well as creating awareness about repercussions of domestic violence on the abuser. Although the police should be intimated only as the final recourse, the police personnel, who are often the first responders to help women in distress, also need to be trained to make certain that the abusers are not just released with a word of warning and that women's domestic violence complaints are taken care of with maximum concern. Most importantly, there is an acute urgency to recognize domestic violence as a silent pandemic by the governments of all countries. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. It was really a wonderful presentation. Moving further, our next presenter is Nayana George, and topic is Identities at the Dinner Table. Commensality, self-perception, and relationships in Anne Charian's A Good Indian Wife. I would request for moving for the presentation by the presenter. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. I'll just take a moment to present my slides. Just a minute. Yeah, are my slides visible? I'm going to assume that they are. Anyway, so I'm Nayana George. I am a research scholar at Christ University, and I will be talking on identities at the dinner table, commensality, self-perception, and relationships in Anne Charian's A Good Indian Wife. Right. So food is often an integral part of traditions and practices where some are passed down through generations, taking on collective flavors while others are made for themselves. So L.Swathi was a former presenter who did talk about food, and I will be building on those ideas as well. These food practices influence both cultural and individual identities, as she has already mentioned. So food is not something that is merely consumed, but it is eaten in a social setting, even when one eats alone. Drawing from the idea that food is relational, it seems to have a sort of encompass entire worlds through food, and that is largely even something that Roland Barthes has posited. So the term commensality, derived from the Latin word commensalis, refers to the practice of eating together at the same table. It is used to refer to the social practice and the aspects, interactions, and relations with food. So commensality is a fundamental part of our identity as social beings. It marks the social cultures and communities that we are a part of, and also the ones that we are excluded from. Commensality includes the exchange of memories and experiences in the presence of food. So one of the ideas that comes into with commensality is that social connections integral to the formation of identity are formed through the interplay of commensality and memories. Again, this reiterates what Dr. Abhishek Paroi has been talking about in the morning session as well. So the act of eating reflects a person's place in relation to their community. This makes meals carriers of communal values and group identity. And when identities undergo crisis, Paul Vlitos often has mentioned that communal eating becomes sites of disagreement, tension, and incomprehension. So Anne Charian's A Good Indian Wife, published in 2008, features Leila as the titular Indian wife in the novel. She moves from the US, from India, after her marriage to Neil and struggles with finding her place in this foreign land. With the displacement that comes from the endeavor to reaffirm her new identity, which now includes this new foreign role of being a wife as well as an immigrant, Sunil, also called Neil in the US, deals with complicated feelings towards a projection of his own identity. So now we have two characters who are going through their own identity crisis. With food playing a crucial role in the everyday lived experiences of these people, commensality becomes a point of inquiry into how they see themselves and how their relationships with each other and themselves evolves through the course of the narrative. So Neil rejects his idea. So Neil also comes into this idea that he is very conflicted about his identity. He takes on a new name in the US. He drops his name Sunil and decides to go with the diminutive of Neil, a new name to mark his new life. He is distinctly aware of the identity privilege that he has, his status as a doctor and an Iyengar Brahmin brings him up the caste and the class hierarchy that, while largely positioned in India, is also visible in the US. He disapproves his whole situation of being in an arranged marriage, and he shows his unpleasant feelings towards his homeland by resisting his cultural identity. So, aware of the role of food as a marker of ethnic identity, one of the ways he resists his association to India is by completely dismissing the food that he grew up eating. So, with this, he also rejects his food associations, his food memories, his food relations, and the identity that is linked through his food. He associates food in America with enjoyment and emancipation, while he associates food that has been linked to India as something that is very restrictive. Also, he decides to start eating non-vegetarian food after moving to the US, which is something that his Iyengar Brahmin community would entirely disapprove of. So by dismissing his food practices from his homeland, he sort of dismisses his admission to his community as well. So sights and memories that would evoke nostalgia in most create distaste in him. Instead of finding good memories in samosas and aloo chips, he tries to he rather pays attention to the smell of stale oil and flour and all of the bad associations that one would have with street food. He only sees food in a distasteful light. He tries to forget the milky sweet coffee that his mother used to serve him, and he tries to instead drink black and sugarless coffee in the US. He also is very, very dismissive about the idea of eating Indian food, especially with your hands, because he keeps saying that he is disgusted by the sight of turmeric-stained fingernails. So in the early days of their marriage, Neil tries his level best to spend the least amount of time as possible with Leila. During their first dinner together, which would be ideally a very romantic situation that would spark interest in each other, they feel uncomfortable. The meal also shocks Leila when Neil's non-vegetarian food habits come to the fore. So he orders a beef stroganoff, which is a direct contrast to her meal choice of chana matar and bhature. So when this happens, this contrast in their meals also shows the contrast in their perceptions and they themselves as people, which again shows that this marriage is off to a very rocky start. So when Neil is forced to have Leila meet his friends over dinner, he has her dress in a pantsuit to sort of have her conform to the image of a desirable partner. Although she welcomes the change in clothes, a sign of her fluid perception of herself, she draws the line shortening her name. She emphasizes that she's proud of her name and by extension, her identity. So this serves as an undercurrent of tension within the friendly commensality, which is also added to by Neil's displeasure at the food being there, catering to Leila's food preferences. This leaves Leila feeling disheartened as she struggles with transitioning into the role of a wife, while also dealing with the cultural differences that has come about through the migration. So Leila decides to transform into a more American wife for Neil, especially through food. While Neil seems to despise the food from his homeland, his relationship with the collection of cuisines is not very straightforward, as there are times when he seems to, and I quote, miss the flavors of spicy chicken curry, cool raita sprinkled with roasted cumin seed powder, green cabbage speckled with chilies and coconut, reiterating that culturally significant foods can harness emotions. This makes him tell her that sometimes he would prefer to have Indian food. So she whips up like this feast that she makes, and they partake in commensality that is tolerable but not necessarily convivial. So as they get to know each other, the final validation for their relationship comes in the form of him agreeing to eat at an Indian restaurant in the US. He still shows an aversion to the experience, but he's much more subtle about it than he used to be, showing that his interactions with Leila are making him less resistant to embracing his identity. So although her social conditioning indicates that she should be happy with being a doctor's wife, she realizes that she finds fulfillment in an identity that includes being his wife as a part and not the whole of her identity. She realizes that she is changing in the way that she perceives and projects herself. So commensality shows through in many more instances in the novel, such as being sites of accusing silences and ways of seeking forgiveness in their relationship. It is integral to the food practices, part of larger rituals and settings, where the presence of food is crucial in the daily life as well as in the special happenings of life that reflect integral changes to their identity. And with that, food relations and practices, both individual and communal, are ways in which people interact with food, adding nuance to the way they view themselves and the people around them. So, what, how, and with whom we eat radically influences the formation of identity. Neil's fears about facing prejudice in the US prompts him to shun his cultural identity of being an Indian. This causes him to develop an aversion to the food that he grew up eating, a disgust that makes him look down upon his compatriots and the food that they eat. Even after he gains confidence in his identity, the aversion towards specific food practices still partly remains as he catches himself thinking judgmental thoughts. So Layla settles in the Americas after a tumultuous journey, but the various experiences in the culinary experience and the space assures her that her migration will continue to have a positive influence in the development of her identity. And with that, it's exactly 2:30, so I would like to stop at this stage. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you for the time. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. A reminder, the presenters whose presentation are completed are requested to leave the studio so other presenters can join the studio. Our next presentation will be by CHITRA.M. I hope she is ready for the presentation. And her topic is multiculturalism aspect of Bharati Mukherjee's wife in Indian diaspora.
Ma'am, shall I audible, ma'am? Shall I start my session? Ma'am, shall I? Introduction. Here is an effort to analyze the character named Dimple in the novel Wife by Bharati Mukherjee. Bharati Mukherjee is a well-known novelist of recent decades. She depicts female cross-cultural elements and search for identity very well in her novels. In the novel Wife, the protagonist Dimple is as the wife of Amit, a young engineer, and this protagonist has to face many problems in her life. The aim of writing this paper is to study Dimple as an individual whose psychological demands and reactions to them governed by her experience of life and her unique individual psyche, and how her unfulfilled dreams create a tragedy. Temple Unfulfilled Dreams. The novel opens with Temple's girlish fantasy about marriage. She is eager to get married and visions and her She is eager to get married and visions of her Prince Charming, whose enormous advances and glances would drench in the with supreme bliss. In Temple's imagination, there is no place for mundane responsibilities, struggle with day-to-day existence like shortage, electricity failure, and adjustments within laws. This is the this is merely a big shutter to Temple's life because she imagines her husband as a fancy character. Temple finds the tedium of marriage is a burden, and she was conceived before she went to America. She just skips throughout that time and aborted herself. In the US, fresh troubles her started again and tries. She keeps her happy by all possible means, despite his own struggle to get a job. Her husband Amit. The reality of life here is that he cannot devise all his time to his wife as he has to remain out of his house for long hours. This leads Temple to feel that he does not care for her. She used to watch television for hours together. She passes her maximum time in watching the films and the television serials which have murdered as a part of their content. Unable to cope up with her psyche, one night as Amit comes home from his job, she stabs him on the neck with kitchen knife, and after she hurried act, she sits and smug, secure in the knowledge that in the television serials the murder are never caught. This is her final act for Americanization. This description reveals that the novel is a tragedy resulted by the unfulfilled dreams of an unbalanced personality of a person who lacks grace and dutifulness and who fails to grow out of juvenile fantasy. In this novel, we find several themes such as adjustment to a new society, job hunting, frustration, and shattering of dreams. And the American appears to Indian as the land of golden fleece, but once there, they encounter unimaginable difficulties, the dream shattered. These difficulties and the struggle to find a job for Amit to tackle. He is a breadwinner of this family. Temple is free from all these worries and should feel herself lucky according to Amit. Then what is the Temple's problem? It is a problem to own tendency to fantasy. As Zahir Zain deserves, that is, he observed, it is difficult to treat the novel as a study of cultural shock, for even while in Calcutta also, Temple is an escapist and lost her private world of fantasy. Temple is a study of an abnormal woman. Her character has to pronounce tactic as an apparent helplessness of a dependent person coupled with a desire of an aggressive personality to revolt and to master the person who come in contact with her. Anyone can find traits of complaining her temperament. We see Temple as a young woman who has an inordinate hurry to get married to her dream man. Accurately, she wants to marry a neurosurgeon. She doesn't want to marry any man. She just falls in imagination and her fantasy towards the job of her husband. We see Temple as a young woman who has an inordinate hurry to get married for her dream man. She appears superficial and fails to impress. All she demands from life is parties, glamour, and love. Thus, her approach to life is unreal. Temple parents were not worried for her marriage, mother helping her with solving her beauty problems. She is fond of beautiful and she used more and more creams to make herself beautiful. Father searching for an ideal match for her, but hidden from this world is a world of fantasy Temple has created for herself. Temple has created her own fantasy man in her imagination, but when she saw Amit, she was failed to adopt a man in her imagination. Temple's sole aim in life is marriage. She sets her total self to this would be miraculous happening, liberating, and so discreet and virgin. She waited for real life to begin. The waiting period, while her parents are hunting for a suitable man, seems to be remote her. It makes her nervous, sick, and anxious. Her anxieties are also related to the inadequacies of her figure and completion, as she wants to desperately to fit into the slot of an eligible match. Like so many Bengali girls, Temple Das Gupta has been brought up to believe that her romantic illusions will somehow be made a reality through liberation into wifedom of an arranged marriage, and therefore she waits for a bridegroom to come and woo her. Her premarital waiting state disturbs her. Years of waiting have already made her nervous, unnaturally prone to colds, coughs, and headaches. Wasted her years, she was 20, lay like a chill weight in her body, giving her eyes a watchful squirrel and her spine a slight curve. She dreams about herself to be the prettiest woman, so she writes to Mrs. Problemwala to provide solutions for her physical problems. But this dream of her remains unfulfilled, and she does not deserve to be the prettiest due to her average beauty. She lends airy dimensions to a very realistic thing like marriage. Even in imagining her husband, she pictures a woman from different ads made complete by borrowing various qualities from a variety of advertisements put together. In marriage, she looks forward to magical change of life, that of Cinderella, though the fairy's magic wand. Temple also expects marriage to lead her to a new dimensions of self-expression. That was supposed to be the best of her getting married, being free and expressing yourself. Thus she has laid down to great expectations from marriage, only to discover afterwards that is, instead of delivering her into a life of promises, making her into a real life. That is, I just want to conclude myself. Due to her abnormal temperament, Timple does not and belong to anywhere. She loses her sense of insecurity, herself, and her real life is pushed in the background initially. After marriage, when living in Calcutta, she tried to see herself as a different being, not like the Bashus, her in laws, just to keep her identity as a separate, unique being. In the USA, she tries never to Americanize. Instead, she engaged herself in change for glory by promoting her Indianness. She always dreams of being any other personality. Thus, increasingly, she becomes a dissociated personality. Ultimately, she murders Amit and creates tragedy as a result of her unfulfilled dreams. Thank you, one and all.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. Again, a reminder for the presenters that they should leave the studio once their presentation is over so the new presenters can join. Now, our next presenter, Smita Dhantal, is not yet in the studio, so we would go further to the presentation of Priya Anthony, and her topic is Breaking the Stereotypes, a study on the Malayalam movie Jaya 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 Hai.
Yes, thank you. Am I audible?
Wait for a while.
Okay.
Now you can present, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a minute. Let me share my slide. It says it's processing. Just give me a second. Yeah, okay. Yes, I hope you can see my slide. Okay. Gender stereotypes are the roles that are assigned to men and women from an early age. And I would like to start my presentation with a quote. It's not easy to challenge stereotypes, but society doesn't change if you don't start changing yourself first. A very good afternoon to one and all. I'm Priya Anthony from Bharat Mata College, Trikakara, Kochi, Kerala. So, my topic for today is Breaking the Stereotypes, a study on the Malayalam movie Jaya 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 Hai. And it is an overgeneralization of characteristics, differences, and attributes of a certain group based on their gender. And that is called gender stereotype. Gender stereotypes create widely accepted biases about certain characteristics or traits and perpetuate the notion that each gender and associated behaviors are binary. Under this assumption, if a man or a woman act differently from how their gender is expected to behave, there is a disconnect in the evaluator's mind. As society moves to a broader construct of what gender means, and individuals who are stuck in this binary idea of gender have a difficult time wrapping their brains around
individuals who do not fit into a strict gender dictatorship.
Interrupt, but if you are changing your slide. Hello.
I just changed
I
my
just
slide.
changed my slide.
The second slide.
The second slide.
Yeah, can you see it? Okay, I hope this slide is visible to you. So, a very common question asked by people is, what is the harm in associating characteristics with people? After all, it is a basic cognitive process. We always associate characteristics to things. For example, the characteristics of innocence, honesty, and warmth are associated with children. Wisdom is associated with old age. Maturity and daring are associated with youth. So, what then is the problem with associating characteristics and roles to gender? And the problem arises when these stereotypes are internalized by the two genders and start limiting their abilities of growth and development, which is almost all the time. And that is the reason why I choose the Malayalam movie, which was recently released, Jai 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 He. And I hope most of the people who are online here haven't watched this Malayalam movie because it's a Malayalam movie. So let me give you a gist of this movie. As you can see in the slide, this is the poster of this movie, Jai 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 He. And this narrates the story of Jaya, the title character, who learns to defend herself from domestic violence and takes her life into her own hands. The film explores various important issues like the importance of education and financial independence of women, gender equality at home, and how daughters are still not valued. Isn't this something that many of us experience or know someone who does? Right from childhood, Jaya is brought up to conform to the societal template of a conventional woman. Holding the newborn Jaya, her father says, "I wish to raise her like Indira Gandhi," and her uncle responds immediately, "But make sure she has long hair or else no one will marry her." As she grows up, Jaya is given her brother's used toys, clothes, and books because why spend on a girl's education when the family needs to spend a fortune on her marriage? And these scenes make it clear to us that here is a patriarchal family where men are the decision makers and women are expected to abide. And as an adolescent, Jaya begins to realize that her parents are clearly gender stereotyping her and her brother. And being the bold and opinionating young woman she is, she voices out her interest in pursuing a degree in anthropology. But however, her parents forcefully enrolled her in BA Malayalam. And there, she falls in love with her professor, who appears to be a progressive man who, unlike the other men in her life, speaks out for women's rights. But very soon, his misogynistic side is revealed as he begins to control her life, and the relationship ends after he slaps her. And upon discovering the relationship, her family immediately decides to get her married off, and like always, her voice is unheard. And Jaya's very first meeting with the groom, Rajesh, is a red flag. He seems to be a very self absorbed individual who only talks about his poultry business, which makes Jaya uncomfortable. And the duo is married, and the cracked glass, the broken furniture, and appliances metaphorically make it evident her marriage life is not going to be a happy one. And then Jaya begins to be physically and emotionally abused right from the beginning. Rajesh is a complete package of toxicity. Every slap he followed by a namesake apology, a trip to the movies, and a meal at a restaurant where the food is of his choice. He slaps her, takes her out to a restaurant to make up, asks her if she is happy. So it is actually a vice versa. Slap, make up, repeat, slap, make up, repeat. So Jaya opens to her family about the abuse, but they simply give the classic advice. It is normal for husbands to get angry and hit wives. Women must adjust and compromise. That is what her family used to tell her. And with no support from her family and having tolerated 21 slaps, Jaya decides to defend herself. She learns self defense moves from YouTube, and when Rajesh tried to slap her one day, she smashed him back in defense. The title, Jay 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 Hey, you might be wondering what is this title all about? Actually, this title comes from the national anthem that the husband hums to his wife as a peace gesture on the advice of his cousin, who tells Rajesh to sing a song to his wife with her name in it. And here you can see that the name Jaya, there is no other songs in Malayalam. So he tried to have this national anthem in order to impress his wife. While Rajesh repeated violence against Jaya was normalized as men will be men, and Jaya's counterattack in self defense created pandemonium in the family. Like in every household, the families talk it out, fake apologies are made, and the couple is forced to reconcile. And Rajesh's brother advises him to teach her that a woman's place is inside a house, a classic third rated move that toxic men make. And then eventually, Jaya discovers their plan and ends up facing an insufferable loss. Everyone, including her parents, holds her responsible for the loss and brands, and they brands her as arrogant and ungrateful, saying she is ruining her own life by not being a good woman. And when Jaya started following Hitler's approach, like smashing him, Rajesh decides to impregnate her so that she silently retreats into her old domestic life of cooking, cleaning, and serving her husband. A baby is generally considered as a final lock on trapping an unhappy couple in a lifelong sentence and saving their face in the eyes of society. But what happens finally is that Jaya musters the courage and walks out. She is criticized for not completing her graduation, for not being financially independent by her family, when in fact it was they who robbed her of those opportunities. And she leaves, and surprisingly, her brother understands and comes to her support. The separated couple meets in court after Rajesh files for divorce. And then the judge emphasizes that women are entitled to
Titled to
justice,
justice,
equality,
equality.
and freedom. The film
The film concludes with an interviewing. Hello, ma'am. Please conclude your session because it's time to wind up.
Yes. I'm about to complete. To conclude. So, what my point is that we still live in a society that normalizes husbands abusing women, but cannot bear it when women retaliate. Isn't it unfair to judge a woman for fighting back against domestic violence? So, before you consider this movie, Jai 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 Hey, as being just another female oriented movie with nothing new to offer, I would suggest giving it a watch for the following reasons. Reason number one is brilliant acting by Jaya and Rajesh. Second one, serious topic conveyed in a humorous manner, sarcastic, realistic lyrics of the songs, and for giving some motivation to the girls out there who may be going through similar situations and to courageously break that notion of stereotype. So that's all about my paper. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Our next presenter is Miss Smita Dhantal, and her topic is Socio-Psychological Character Analysis Model, SPCAM.
Hello. My camera is not working, but I hope my screen works. I'll share my screen now. Okay, I hope this is working. So good afternoon, everyone. I am Smita Dhantal, and I am a research scholar from the Department of English and Cultural Studies, Christ Deemed to be University, Bangalore. For my PhD work, I have developed what I call socio-psychological character analysis model, in short, the SPCAM. Over the years, literature has evolved, and with it, the way we look at different genres, different narrative styles, settings, and so on has been done actively. The research on these other aspects has always been active. However, there seems to be a gap when it comes to methods used for character analysis, but it's not completely zero. So we have people like Alan Palmer, who, while discussing what he calls as fictional minds, mentions how we need to treat fictional characters the same way we treat real people, because at the end of the day, they are as dynamic as real people, because that is whom they reflect and represent. We also have Alberta Cantarello, who is consciously and very actively trying to work and merge ideas from social psychology and literature. And her point of view is that we can gain a lot of insight by analyzing a literary text when we are talking about society, and by using social psychology, we can find new ways of studying the text themselves.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, yes.
Just to make it is, it's in full screen.
Okay, sorry.
Slideshow.
Yes, yes. Now, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, understanding that literature and social psychology focus on people in isolation and in groups, I picked two theories, that is symbolic interactionism and cognitive behavioral theory, and I've merged them. Now, in layman terms, symbolic interactionism focuses on how people create new meaning while interacting with others in the society, not just about the situation and the society, but also themselves. On the other hand, cognitive behavioral therapy or theory believes that a person's cognition, the way a person thinks, is reflected in the way they speak and the way they behave. So the similarities between these two theories and the differences being very complementary to each other, it was very natural that these two came together, symbolic interactionism and CBT, and thus SPCAM was made. To demonstrate this in this presentation, I am taking only one aspect of Sansa Stark, who is a character from George R.R. Martin's A Song of Ice and Fire. And I'm exploring her interactions with another character, Joffrey Baratheon. In the process, I explore two questions. One is, which interactions with Joffrey have a lasting impact on Sansa? And second, how does the SPCAM help analyze her character development using these interactions and the subsequent thoughts and behavior? Now, I'll keep it brief, respecting the time given. I'll keep it brief, and this is the overview of my entire analysis though. These boxes that you see here are all the interactions, all the important interactions they have with each other. Now, before we start, we need to understand that Sansa grew up in a very sheltered, in a very protective environment, and she had a very idealistic point of view of the world. And when she was told that she is to be engaged and married to the would-be king, it was like all her dreams came true. And she also has legit dreams about she being the queen and people whom she knows coming and kneeling in front of her. However, all the next interaction she has with Joffrey change her point of view, not just about herself and her handsome gallant prince, but also about the world. There is some time for that though. Now there are incidents like the one which is near the river. Her dream Joffrey, who is this gallant, handsome, beautiful prince, overshadows the real Joffrey, her point of view changes, however, after her father Eddard Stark's death. In a very manipulative situation, Joffrey's mother creates a scenario where Eddard Stark comes up to be a traitor, and she is forced, in the name of the love that she bears Joffrey, that she writes a letter to Robb, her brother, that declaring her own father to be a traitor. She does that. She surrenders to the love she assumes she has for Joffrey. She also does this hoping that Joffrey will reciprocate the love and he'll respect the love that she has for him. But Joffrey, being Joffrey, promises her mercy one day, beheads the father on the next, and on the third day, he forces her to look at that beheaded head on the spike. And all the other incidents from now on are all about physical abuse and mental abuse on Sansa by Joffrey. She submits, though on the inside she's angry. There is a lot of hatred, there's a lot of disgust, but she submits only in the name of survival. There is a brief moment where she feels the sense of freedom when, for political reasons, Joffrey has to keep her aside and marry someone else called Marjorie. But then that doesn't last for a very long time because she is forced into marrying her uncle, Tyrion Lannister. Now, we need to understand that this girl is a child. She is 13, 14 years old with a head full of dreams, and she would have imagined her wedding a 50, 100 million times. But here, in reality, the rest of her family is dead. She is forced into marrying someone who who's born with dwarfism and who is portrayed to be cruel. Even after the marriage, even though Tyrion tries to be kind to her, tries to include her in different aspects, she resists. Because of everything that Joffrey has done to her, she is full of fear. She has anxiety. There are moments when she starts to cry without any reason. There are nights, her nights are scarce of sleep, but full of nightmares. This is what happens to a child who is full of happiness, who is full of hope and dreams and songs and stories. And this is the conclusion. This is what she ends up being. Now, in an interaction she has with other girls of her age, she sees how silly they are being. She sees them having a head full of dreams, how gallant this knight is, how beautiful the prince is, and so on and so forth. And she thinks they are children, they are silly little girls, they have never seen a battle, they have never seen a man die, they know nothing. Their dreams are full of songs and stories, the way hers had been before Joffrey cut her father's head off. Sansa pitied them, Sansa envied them. Sansa pities them because she knows the reality is different from her imagination once was. But she also envies them because they have not seen what she has seen. They did not have to face what she had to face. And they are still as innocent as she once was. She misses the Sansa she was a few years back. You can see the stark difference in Sansa 2 years from in the past and 2 years today. In conclusion, I would like to say that academia is becoming very scientific in its approach. Even in literature, even though it's a very subjective subject, we are asked to be empirical and objective. And what SPCAM does is it supports the subjective understanding and perspectives we have of a text by giving an objective support to it. And I would like to say that this framework is not at all prescriptive. It is not rigid. It is as dynamic as the characters that it wishes to, or it analyzes. It can be customized based on the needs of the critique and the character they are analyzing. What it does is it helps conceptualize the different facets of a character and helps them portray them in a better manner. Because till date, when we did character analysis, we used to describe their physique, we used to describe how they dress, how they behave, and this is what they are. But what SPCAM does is it helps us it gives us a backing of they are like this because of certain things that have happened to them, and it helps us present it in a better manner. Thank you. That is it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for the wonderful session. The next presentation is by Jana Nandini, and the topic is Racial Prejudice and Social Stratification in Harper Leads to Kill a Mockingbird.
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready to present, ma'am. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, you are audible now.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon to one and all present here. I'm here to present a seminar on the topic Racial Prejudice and Social Stratification in Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird. Let me just begin with the definition of cultural studies, as my topic is come under the category of this. Actually, cultural studies examine the practices related to everyday life, history, and structure of power
economy, politics, knowledge. It focuses on the empirically rich, politically engaged research on the concept of feminist gender and sexuality studies, race theory and ethics studies. Actually, cultural studies aim to understand the complex form and analyze the social and the political context. And next, about the author Harper Lee. The To Kill a Mockingbird was written by American novelist Harper Lee. She was born in 1926 in Monroe. She studied law at the University of Alabama. She wrote only two books. The first one is To Kill a Mockingbird, and the second one is Go Set a Watchman. Actually, Go Set a Watchman is considered to be a sequel to Kill a Mockingbird. She had received only two prizes, that is Pulitzer Prize in 1961 and George W. Bush awarded Presidential Medal for the service to literature. The next one is about the introduction of the book. To Kill a Mockingbird was first published in 1960, and it possesses similar biographical elements with the life of the author. Actually, this book was published after a long editorial process, which was written earlier ago. And here, as I already said, there are similar biographical elements. Here, one is an instance that the main protagonist of this novel is Atticus Finch, who was nothing but a representation of the author Harper Lee's father, Amasa Coleman Lee, a lawyer whose accounts resemble the hero of her novel. This novel focuses on the racial influence prevailed among the countries. There are two aspects which focus on the racial prejudice in the novel. The first one is Jim Crow laws. The Jim Crow laws is nothing but the racial caste system that operated primarily but not exclusively in southern and border states from 1877 to 1960. The two aspects of Jim Crow laws are: it forbade the interracial marriage. The next one is it ordered business owners and public institutions to keep black and white clients separated. The other aspect of the racial prejudice is the Great Depression. Actually, the Great Depression is the period of drastic decline in economy, less business activity, falling prices, and high levels of unemployment. It began with the stock market crash in 1929 and didn't end until in 1941. The next one is the definition of racial prejudice. Actually, racism is believed to form from the human behavioral traits corresponding to the inherited attributes and could be divided on the superiority of the one race over another. The next point is racial prejudice is often took the form of a stereotype. It could be a positive or negative, but it was often considered to be negative. Racial prejudice was considered to be a positive stereotype for the people who are higher class, higher race, or higher color, and it's taken the form of negative stereotype for the people of lower class, lower community, and also the Negroes. There are several forms of racism. First is individual racism and institutional racism, structural racism, and historical racism. Individual racism is nothing but the assumption or belief of the behavior, and it stems from the conscious or the unconscious racial prejudice. The next one is institutional racism. It focuses on the policies, practices, procedure, and culture of an institution or a system that work better for white people and cause harm to the people of color. Third one is structural racism. Structural racism is nothing but the stereotypes, values, and images perpetuated by the white-dominated society of the one racial group. Actually, this novel focuses on the Mekong people. The main historical reason for the racism is trafficking of the black people to the continent of America. In this novel, the people seek no justice to black people with the objective eyes. The novel focuses on the four community. The first one is ordinary, Cunningham, evil, and Negroes. Here, the ordinary community is nothing but the white people. Cunningham are also white, but poor farmers. Evil are white, but they are barbaric one. Negroes are nothing but the black community. The racial prejudice couldn't be taken into consideration as a single line of color, but it also can occur in the form of rumors. Here, the character Boo Radley fall as a victim of the racial prejudice, and he was suffered for a long time. And the next important character of this novel is California. Actually, she was working as a maid in the white family. In some of the instances, speakings, thoughts, and statements reflect how she was suppressed and subjugated by the white people and the society. The third important aspect of the racial prejudice is the institutional racism, and it was mainly caused due to the Depression period. Here, the white school boards were more reluctant than ever to fund black schools. The another important concept is structural racism. Here, in the case of structural racism, the white men weren't allowed to defend the black people, even everyone knows when the black people were innocent. Here, the author gives an instance that the white community of Macomb offended Atticus Finch, the white lawyer, as he defended the black man Top Robinson for the accusation of the physical harassment of Mayella Evil. Here, the character Mayella Evil, everyone knows she is not an innocent. He is double playing, but the only reason for this patron to the Mayella Evil is only because of her color, that is white. Here, actually, prejudice not only happened to white to black, but in the vice versa, it also happened to black to white. Here, in this novel, the author portrayed the important aspect that when the Scout and Jim, the white children, when they entered into the black church, they were oppressed and they were condemned by the black woman called Lula. The next topic is social stratification. The social stratification would occur when resources in a given society were distributed unevenly. It was the differentiation preference of access of social goods in the society brought about by power, religion, kinship, prestige, ethnicity, gender, age, sexual orientation, and class. The main cause of social stratification is the Depression period. Here, the community Cunninghams were actually a very poor farmers, and during the Depression period, the people were fall out of stock market and they didn't have enough money to buy anything. So they focused their so they are deviated from bargaining towards the Cunninghams. So they were running out of the money and they were even stopped to learn. So let me just conclude my topic. This research paper inherits the idea that year may pass, but not the racial mindset of the white people towards the black. Yes, this point is considered to be true. Even 4 years ago in America, innocent black man Cleve Lloyd was suppressed to death by the white policeman. So, though the novel was written in 1960, it was still believed that racism is prevalent among the society. So, as a quote says, development should happen like the breakage of egg. It should happen within the internal forces, but not by the external one. Similarly, the perception of the racism should happen within the each individual, which would build the humanity-based society. So, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. The question, if any attendees, participant or presenter are having any questions to any particular presenter, they can ask their question in the comment section and the respected presenters will answer their question in the comment. Our next presenter is Priyadarshini S. and the topic is magical realism.
Hello? Audible, ma'am?
Audible, ma'am? Yes, you are audible.
Okay.
Okay. Ma'am, you are requested to put your camera on, please.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay, ma'am.
Good afternoon, all of you. Today I hear the topic, the reflection of magical realism in Krish Karnad's Nagamandala. First, about the author. Krish Karnad is a contemporary Indian playwright, actor, and movie director in Kannada language. He is among the 7 recipients of Twentieth Award for Kannada, the highest literary honor conferred in India. He was born in 19 May 1938, Mathan, Bombay Presidency. Krish Karnad's cultural impact can never be undermined. Studied philosophy, politics, and economics as a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford. As a towering figure in Indian cinemas and theatre. Karnad's significance as a playwright, filmmaker, and social thinker looms large on the current society. 10-time National Award winner for cinema. Next one is the book introduction. Krish Karnad wrote the play Nagamandala in 1987 to 88. This play brought the Kannada Sahitya Akademi Award in 1989. The play is based on two oral Kannada tales they had heard from his mentor friend and well-known poet, translator and philosopher A.K. Ramanujam, to whom Karnad also dedicated the play. A play with a cobra is the subtitle of the play. The next one is themes. Nagamandala is a movie based on folk tales spread in North Karnataka, India. The movie portrays lifestyle, food habits, and routine habits of medieval period in Karnataka. Snakes are considered sacred and are feared and worshipped. The summary of the Nagamandala. The story is taken from a Karnataka folklore which Karnad heard from the poet A.K. Ramanujam. Nagamandala hangs around Rani, the protagonist, her husband's indifferent attitude towards her and her incognizant affair with King Cobra. Rani loses her husband Appanna to a concubines and becomes anxious about the situation. How did the author include the magical realism in Nagamandala? Magical realism is a style of fiction that paints a realistic view of the modern world while also adding a magical elements. The play Nagamandala is divided into a prologue and two acts. It is based on two folk tales from Kannada. The first story about the lamp flames that gather in a village temple to exchange gossip about the households they inhabit is a part of the outer play and gives imaginative expression to the idea to community life. The second story about the woman who has been visited by a king cobra in the form of her husband is personified in the play as a beautiful young woman, and it is told to an audience composed of the playwright and the flames. It combines folk with magical realism and mythical elements to present oral tales with a modern approach. Karnad says that he has heard that in some remote village, the flames have the ability to speak. The flames talk to each other in a female voice. The playwright uses the techniques of shape-shifting to change the form of Naga, the cobra, into the form of Appanna. Karnad has taken this style of changing from one shape to another. Karnad says clearly explained how the magical situation happened in the play and how it will be possible in reality. Generally, every play or drama or anything in literature, some writers have used the term magical realism, but everything is not suitable for every work. But in this play, Nagamandala, Karnad is vividly pictured from top to bottom, so it will also participate the male role of the play. In the Nagamandala, a snake can change a human being, and Rani is pregnant with a Naga-like creature is not possible at all. Meanwhile, Karnad has applied the term to the realistic style of imagination. It became known as magical realism, and it played an important role in the play Nagamandala. Let me conclude the play. It can be concluded that though the ending of Nagamandala is not only the orthodoxy of Indian epic texts and the feminine identity, but also the play must be studied and reflects power of magical realism in Nagamandala. Finally, the play has a three ending and it also conveys the power of magical elements. Nagamandala is vintage of rich Kannats and it magically bridges the gap between myth and reality. Ultimately, the play Nagamandala, we analyze the techniques of magical realism and how Karnad has been picturizing in the play Nagamandala in detail. So it becomes given the reality of life through the way of magical power. By developing an Indian myth, the play creates a magical realism and powerful experience through the dual representation of the cobra and Appanna. They are inextricably linked in the story, resulting in a multi-dimensional situation. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for the insightful presentation. Our next presenter is A.K. Said Munawar with Miss M. Nabisa Bibi on the topic Delineation of Materialism and Cyber Culture, a study of Manjula Padmanabham's Harvest. Said sir, if you are speaking then you are not audible. We request you to unmute yourself and start your camera. Your slides are visible.
Please allow Miss Nabisa Vivi to present. She's waiting to present.
Am I audible now? I hope I'm visible and audible.
Yes,
Am I?
you both are visible and audible.
Okay, thank you so much. So let me introduce ourselves first before getting into the presentation. And I'm Nabisha Bevi, working as an assistant professor of English at Sadaktalapa College. And the co-author of this paper is Mr. A.K. Syed Munawar. He is a student of first MA English at Sadaktalapa College. And we are very happy to be a part of this program. And yes, let's get started. So the title of the paper is Delineation of Materialism and Cyber Culture, a study of Manjula Padmanabhan's Harvest. And Manjula Padmanabhan's Harvest, it is actually a play which was written in the year, which was published in the year 1997. And Manjula Padmanabhan is an Indian playwright and as well as journalist. And her works mainly concern on science, technology, gender, and inequality. And in the play Harvest, let me give a short introduction about the play Harvest. It is a story which revolves around the character Om Prakash. So he is the main character, and the story is all about Om Prakash and his family. And he is the breadwinner of the family. And recently he lost his job, and his family is in poor condition. So when his family is in poor condition, when he is seeking for a job, he came across an advertisement from Interplanta Services. So he agrees to sell his organs to that company for the sake of money. So it is the first thing, it is the first conflict that arises in the play. And the recipient, that is the recipient of the organ, is Guinea. His original name is actually Virgil, and he uses the name Guinea in the play. And he mistakenly takes the organs from Om's brother G2. Then the rest of the story is all about what is the condition of G2 and the rest of the family, and will Om Prakash realize his mistake? Will he feel sorry for his brother or not? That is the rest of the story. And let me introduce what is materialism and some of the materialistic things that prevails in the play Harvest. So first of all, materialism. It is a belief that money and possession, that is material things like money, car, bike, and all the luxurious things in our life as a most important thing. So people who love materials often consider these things as very important than anything. Okay, so we have a term called Philistinism, which means the love for material things more than anything. So these people have little interest in spiritual matters. So one such character is Om Prakash in the play Harvest. And I have mentioned a few scenes of materialistic existence in the play Harvest, and we can see the element of materialism throughout the play through the character Om Prakash. First of all, Om Prakash, he signs the contract of selling his own organs for the sake of money. In order to enjoy the material sophistication. And so it is an example for some people that who go to an extent in order to
Hello, ma'am.
Yes.
You are requested to conclude your presentation now.
Sorry, ma'am.
You are requested to conclude your presentation now. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, ma'am. I will conclude. So So then, so Om is a character which represents the materialistic existence in the play Harvest. Then I have included some things like cyber culture. Cyber culture, it is something related to technology and internet culture. So it is actually it is prevailing in our current society. We couldn't survive without internet. So the usage of technology and internet can be seen in this play Harvest because the character Ginny communicates with the character Om Prakash through the video call. So he uses the gadget like contact module, and it is one of the significant scene in the play Harvest. So with the use of technology, Virgil can cheat Om Prakash actually because he disguises himself as a lady with the name Ginny. So though technology benefits us in many ways, it is actually serves as a source of many crimes. So with few points, I would like to conclude the session that there are people who are ready to sacrifice anything for the sake of money. So one such character is Om Prakash, but actually material things couldn't buy happiness. Only at the end of the play, the readers could understand that money is not the only thing that can bring us happiness. That is, human values and human life is more important than money. And Manjula Padmanabhan exposes a society which lacks humanity through the character Om Prakash and his mother. And also I have pointed out that how technology plays as a source for committing crimes. So though it helps us in many ways, it is actually one of the sources to commit crimes. So with this point, I would like to conclude and thank you for listening. Thank you everyone.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation. Our next presenter is B. Suba, and the topic is the theme of incompleteness and search for identity in Girish Karnad's Hayavadan. B. Suba. Okay, so I think she is not present, so we will move to the other presenter. Our next presenter is L. Priyadarshini.
Here. I'm here.
So the presentation by L. Priyadarshini on mapping the role of structural violence on the gender identity of Naga women in Isterian Kire's selected works.
Thank you, ma'am. So, the title of my paper is Mapping the Role of Structural
Wait a
Violence.
minute, ma'am. Wait a minute.
Oh.
Ma'am, we are requesting to put your camera on, please. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. So, a very good evening to all gathered here virtually. I am L. Priyadarshini from Bharati University, Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. So, the title of my paper is Mapping the Role of Structural Violence on the Gender Identity of Naha Women in Eastern Kayer's select works. So, to begin with, violence in India's northeast region is inseparable from the psyche of the victims, and it is transmitted across generations for its historical claims. So, geographically as well as socially ostracized northeast region continues to experience multiple forms of violence during colonial and post-colonial years because of the people's struggle for their political and cultural autonomy. So, Nagaland in particular has its own forms of insurgency and violence that devastated the lives of thousands of people. The agonies experienced by the Naha tribes disturbed men and women physically, mentally, as well as culturally. So, gender as a socially constructed embodiment contributes to numerous gender based violent incidents in the heterogeneous society. Therefore, Naha women, under the colonial influences and the pattern of Naha system, were made to situate them under experiences at the periphery of the society. So, in this regard, the Naha women are subjected to suffering and humiliation than men, which affects their gender identity significantly. So, this particular research paper situates the women of Nagaland as a focus group and attempts to discuss the excruciating sufferings under the hegemonic atrocities of the political institutions and administrative systems by adopting the methodology of textual interpretation. So, in the contemporary era, gender based violence is proliferated among diverse social, political, economical, and cultural domains. So, Laura Joberg opines that gender is, I quote, often described as a social construct, an institutionalized entity or artifact in a social system invented or constructed by a particular or society that exists because people agree to behave as if it
L. Priyadarshini. Priyadarshini ma'am, due to some network issues, left the meeting. And at present in the studio, we have Vora Hirva. I would request to Vora Hirva to present if she is ready. Vora Hirva.
Hello. Am I audible to everyone present over there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Give us 2 minutes.
Okay, no issues. Just let me know. I'm ready. I have been here and listening to others. Actually, my turn is last, but I'll present as other research scholars are absent.
Okay. Ma'am, you can present your presentation. If you have
Okay.
PPT, then you can share also.
Okay.
And
Thank
please
you.
try to complete your presentation in 5 minutes if you can.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Actually, I have selected two novels. But if chairperson will allow me that
Ma'am,
I
already
can
we are running
present
late.
one text and
Sir, she is asking, she has prepared presentation on the 2 novels. So if
we are very sorry for that. Actually, what happened, we are running out of time, and still one session is left. In that session, more than 15 presenters are there. So, 5 to 6 minutes, if it is possible.
Okay, no issues. Okay. Title of my paper is myself, Vora Hirva, as my name has already been mentioned. I'm pursuing my PhD from Department of English, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Singh Bhavnagar University. I'm pursuing my research on post-colonial literature. And my topic is post-negritude, the study of despair and disillusionment. I've selected two texts. One is Mariam Abbas' So Long a Letter, and another is From a Crooked Rib, which has been written by Naruddin Farah. I'd like to give a general view because I've been given 5 minutes. There's a difference between negritude and post-negritude. I think many of the people present over here must have known that negritude. There are 3 forefathers of negritude movement like Amish Tripathi, Leon Demis, and Sango. They have depicted Africa in a very idealistic manner. If we have a glance at the poem which has been written by Amish Tripathi, that written to native land, we can see that they worship ancestors. They do believe in really religious. They have been very religious. They worship their ancestors. They are religious. They have their own like things like they worship to nature also. So at some extent we find that post-negritude depicts the reality which is not sentimental and which is not very idealistic. It gives us the picture of despair and disillusionment. Like negritude is a theory of distinctiveness of African culture and personality. So it's a reaction against stereotypes of colonialism that we can say that India was also colonized by Britishers. The same way Africa and African continent was also colonized by European colonialists. Like we Indians were having many eradication of some of the things like sati pratha and remarriage of widow. The same way Africa has also history. So in this post-negritude study, it has been shown that there are many African country was very enslaved, and accusation has already been done on colonialism that African natural human resources were colonized and people had been enslaved and poverty was there, but it was not true. African people were having their own wrong belief system, and that's why post-colonial literature and post-negritude literature has come up with some reality. Now, I would like to mention, and I've written some of the information regarding my text, and as I'm not physically present there, I would like to read all of a sudden so that I cannot take much time and other research scholar cannot get disturbed. So, first text is from a crooked rib. Nuruddin Farah was born in 1965 in Italian Somaliland. He got education in Ethiopian Mogadishu at British University of Essex and London. So here I would like to mention one quote which has something to do with title of the text from a crooked rib. A 18 years old girl, Abla, whose hand is given to an old man for marriage. So, treat women nicely, for a woman is created from a rib, and the most curved portion of the rib is upper portion. So, if you should try to strengthen it, it will break, but if you leave it as it is, it will remain crooked. So, treat women nicely. Let me tell you, many of you might have known about one medical procedures that has been addressed by many Islamic country and even in India, if I'm not wrong, and that is circumcision. It's a very sensitive issue, and being a girl, I cannot also portray, a more light on it. For that, you'll have to Google it out. But it's like, when a doctor removes the foreskin from the penis so that a girl or especially girls and women cannot get sexual pleasure before marriage. That practice has been criticized a lot in this novel. Who has Abla, who has been suffering from sexuality, and who her character is a kind of self-exploration in the novel. So it's a post-colonial feminist criticism clearly shows that there is and submissiveness of women. It can also be witnessed in every aspect of life. As post-colonialism is a voice and response to colonialism, it is said that feminism focuses on white women and does not concentrate on racism and colonial imperialism. So, from a crooked rib shows plight of a girl who is 18 years old, who has been raised in a country and elopes to town, and reasons that women are sold like cattle in the society where marriage can be a legal one, but then she realizes the marriage without love and understanding. Throughout the journey, she reconstructs arranged marriages. A woman's livelihood and depend on her marriage. She is protective as well as submissive, especially in relation of father and daughter and husband and wife. The social belief system is social organization, and a womanhood is questioned from a humanistic point of view. Ebla is a character who is developing, making herself puppet in social system, and that is physically as well as mentally very hurt. Yes?
We request to wind up, please, because you are already running out of time. It's already, you have taken 7 minutes. So please wind up your conclusion.
To be very honest, paper is quietly remains incomplete over here. Many issues have been depicted in the text, but I would like to conclude that there is a difference between negritude and post-negritude. Negritude is very sentimental, and post-negritude comes up with the reality because African continent, either you take into consideration Somalia or Senegals, they are having political instability. They are lack of infrastructural facilities. Agriculture instruments were also not there. There was also a loss of totalitarianism and dictatorship. So there were many issues, and like people also suffer from gender discrimination, and gender differences were also prevalent during that time. So it's a kind of exploration in post-negritude studies that if you will have drawbacks in your own belief system, no one will be there to save you.
Ma'am, could you conclude your observation? Yeah, conclude your observation, Iba.
Sir is
Yes, sir.
asking for.
Yes, sir. Yes. I would like to conclude that with the help of post-negritude image, it's been very realistic in comparison with negritude, and there are many writers like Chimamanda Adichie, and who has written Purple Hibiscus and other novels, and through which it can be claimed that there are many reasons through which it can be proved that Africa is still underdeveloped and there's an enslavement. So this is from my side. I know that I am not able to give justice to my papers, as I am supposed to complete within a few minutes. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much. And sorry for bustling and bustling over there.
We are
Thank
very
you.
apologize for
Thank you.
inconvenience, ma'am.
No, it's okay. It's completely all right. I can understand.
Thank you, ma'am. So, moving further, the next presentation is by Melba Sabu, and the topic is an eco-critical study of a waterfall of horses from Janice Perriet's Boats on Land. Melba Sabu, ma'am. Ma'am, are you ready to present?
Ma'am, am I audible?
Now you can start, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Melba. I'm here to present my research paper, which is an eco-critical study of a waterfall of horses from Janice Perriet's Boats on Land. Janice Perriet is a writer from Shillong whose writings can be said to have reintroduced the literature from the northeast of India to the Indian as well as the global reader. She is the recipient of the Sahitya Academy's Yuva Puraskar Award for 2013 for Boats on Land. Her work, including poetry, fiction, and articles on art and culture, has featured in a wide number of national magazines and newspapers. The chosen story is the first of 15 in Boats on Land, set in the mid-19th century at Pomring village, which is presently located in Shillong. The narrative traces the upheaval that ultimately led to the colonial occupiers leaving the village. Villagers symbolically serve as the colonial space constructed by the British, as well as the principal catalyst of the events that take place. Speaking of protection of nature, the and the natives, Perriet seems to draw a clear dichotomy. While colonization marks as an initiation of sorts to the very concept of anthropocentrism, the natives' treatment of their ecology is not only loving but also respectful. This can be further justified by the speciesist treatment of the natives at the hands of the colonizers, such as whipping them and treating them as dogs, swine, and the natives looking to nature for guidance in the most difficult of times. Eco-cosmopolitanism is a term coined by Heise in her 2008 book Sense of Place and Sense of Planet, which equates the local ecology with the global. The idea is that what appears to be the matter with the local ecology could also be a global crisis. In the context of the story, the abuse of Pommering environment led to the village retaliating in a manner that dented the global ecological composition as well. This is found in the light of human beings being a vital part of ecology, as the term is understood. Kaktian is translated as word or language in Khasi language. As words caused the ultimate doom of the colonial power in Pommering, Kaktian can be equated to the mention of the word in the Holy Bible. In the story, the elders of the village take it upon themselves to evoke spirits that would avenge the brutal murder of a fellow villager who refused to be underpaid by a colonizer and who was then tied to a horse and dragged around all day, resulting unquestionably in his death. The summoned spirits take over the horses, making them run and plunge into a waterfall. The reference to animism also hints at the cultural nuance of the northeast of India, in which man and nature become one, not just in spirit, but also in body. The oneness is symbolized by the color red in the water that denotes the unison of the water body and the bodies of the horses, who appear almost human in choosing their own end, as opposed to the notion of animals who are said to possess little intelligence, a king ability. It also hints at traces of
Ma'am, you are requested to wind up your presentation, please.
Metaphoric waste is a term coined by Susan Morrison in her 2015. Yes.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, I need just a minute more.
Okay.
Just a minute more. So metaphoric waste is a term coined by Susan Morrison in her 2015 book. It is a term that could comprise of anything from mistreated Dalits to a civilian life lost in war considered as collateral damage. In the story, the innocent and unaware villagers like Hapida, who are trampled by the horses running to the waterfall, could be seen as elements of metaphoric waste. Similarly, the natives ill-treated by the colonizers could also be perceived as metaphoric waste by the imperialist historian. In Parriot's works have all duly glorified the power of ecology. Even in the wake of human-non-human disharmony, culture and class-based dichotomies, as humans increasingly turn to nature to wipe out territories and ethnicities, nature stands tall as neutral but still most powerful. I'm done.
Thank you, ma'am. Our next presenter is L. Priyadarshini on topic mapping the role of structural violence on the gender identity in Naga women in Eastern Kire's select work. It's a request to the presenters to complete their presentation in 5 minutes as we are running out of time. Thank you.
Am I audible? Am I audible, ma'am?
You are audible properly. but I am requesting to start your presentation where you have left previously. Are you getting my voice?
Am I audible?
Am I audible? Yes, you are audible.
Shall I go ahead, ma'am?
Shall I go ahead, ma'am? Yes, from you, where you have left. From where you have to start your presentation.
Okay. Sure. So I'm continuing my presentation. So territorial distanced Northeast tribes of India are prone to socially structured discriminations within the nation. Migrated tribes in metropolitan cities encounter racial and cultural prejudices questioning their fundamental citizenship rights and national identity. Northeast migrants are verbally abused by labeling them to derogatory names such as Chinkies, Nepalis, Chinese, and so on that significantly influence them to feel alienated within their own country. So the Oriental or the Mongoloid racial features of the Northeast people is the prime reason for the occurrence of discrimination and social exclusion imposed by the majority of the group as racial bias. I quote the words of Egon Square. Any distinction, exclusion, restriction, or preference based on race, color, nation, ethnic origin that has the purpose of nullifying or impairing the recognition, enjoyment, and exercise on an equal footing of human rights and fundamental freedoms in the political, economic, social, cultural, or any other field of public life. I unquote. So these possibilities of enjoying the nation's sense of belongingness are uprooted from the lives of these Naha tribes as well as the tribes of Northeast. They are portrayed as a subaltern by the elite. So Eastern Kaya from Nagaland is keen on projecting all these social and political prejudices faced by the displaced tribes to public through their literary works. So in her work titled Bitter Wormwood, through the particular character Nebo, lists several intersectional aspects confronted by the Northeast women with respect to race, gender, class, and so on. So in addition to their racial differences, the aspect of gender has become another cruel threat for the girls or women who migrate internally. So to quote the words of Bill Ashcroft, I quote, "The body too has become then the literal site on which resistance and oppression have struggled, with the weapon being in both cases of physical signs of cultural differences, veils and wigs, to use Cardiatuscana's terms, symbols and literal occasions of the power struggles of the dominator and the dominated for possession."
Hello, ma'am.
Hello.
Hello. Ma'am, you are requested to. Hello. You are getting my voice?
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Yes, ma'am. I can hear you. Okay. Now we are requesting to put your exact finding from your research paper because we are already running late.
Sure. Let me conclude my paper. So to conclude, notwithstanding the matrix of intersectional notions of gender, race, class, religion, and nation, Kaya, who's from Nagaland, they reconstitute the primordial identities of Naga women by maintaining the integrity of the Naga cultural systems. So the replicas of identity formation of Naga women help in establishing their native and national collective identity despite their socially constructed gendered inventions. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So we will take our next presentation and it is by Dr. B. Padmanabham and Srinidhi P. Turning Away from the End of the Road, Resilience in the Wake of Trauma in Nil Mukherjee's A Life Apart. I would request the presenters to complete their presentation in brief within 5 minutes as we are running out of time. Srinidhi ma'am?
Hello, am I audible? Hello?
Hello. Please listen carefully. That now we are requesting other presenters who are left to present. So we have shared the link, another link new in the WhatsApp group. So you can join now, there, and your presentation will be conducted there.
There are two presenters left. One is by Dr. V. Padmanabham and Srinidhi P. Ma'am. The two presenters left are Dr. P. Padmanabham and Srinidhi P. and Parvani Sharma. These two presenters are requested to join in the Google Meet link which is shared to you in WhatsApp group. Your presentations will be conducted there in the Google Meet link.
If you are facing any difficulty, then you can contact us in WhatsApp or as well as you.
Both the presenters are getting the idea what we are telling?
First of all, are they listening or not?
Ma'am, are we audible to you?
If presenters are listening us, then please, we are requesting to responses. Hello?
Okay, due to time constraint, we have just managed our two presenters into another meeting in the Google Meet. So next presenter is Emisha Ravani, and her topic is 20th and 21st Century Narratives, a comparative analysis of Revolution 2020 and the Great Gatsby. Parvani ma'am, am I audible to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, there were some adjustment made due to the time constraint. You are shared one Google Meet link and I request you to join there and your presentation will be conducted there.
Okay, ma'am. Hi.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So we will continue with the presentation of Emisha Ravani. Two minutes. Present करी screen. Slideshow.
So my research paper is on the Hello everyone, my research paper is on the topic of 20th and 21st century narratives, a comparative analysis of Revolution 2020 and the Great Gatsby. So I would like to start my presentation with a quote that is written by Keats, and that is we can find it in a letter where he is writing to his beloved one. I love you the more in that I believe you have liked me for my own sake and for nothing else. So here I have selected both these novel because I have found so many similarities, though they are coming from the different eras. So now going to the introduction, that is the idea of comparisons. So how comparative literature study is helping as a student to me is tracing connections and similarities between different works of literature and cultural production. That is a very big beneficial point to us to study like this in a way. This comparison is not limited by national or linguistic borders and encourages students to explore and understand cultures on their own terms without imposing their own culture and linguistic biases. So it is a very wide area, we can say. My research tool is comparative study methodology. I have used is collective descriptive. I have used a sub theory that is genetic structuralism, a critical method of 20th century. It is by Goldman. The structure and the historical development of the social groups, the world vision, an individual who is also the representative of his age. That is from I have taken that is tradition and the individual talent. That is T.S. by Eliot. What is comparative literature studies? We all know that it is a multidisciplinary field where we can study the literary forms, we can compare them, and we can get the different ideas to explore the different cultures, as well as it has a global context. The comparative aspects of the novel, that we can find that social classes, that is elite and middle class, setting a United States in 1920 and the contemporary India in the Revolution 2020 style, that is indirect or characterization, that we know all that Great Gatsby is telling is told by Nick Carraway, and here the direct characterization, as you know, that there is the three character which are coming directly to us, characters larger than life figures, that Fitzgerald has portrayed the figures in the novel, and in we can go to Chetan Bhagat, that is more realistic and grounded. And also there are autobiographical aspects we can see in the novel from the both the authors. Aspect of love, there are two love triangles in each novels, that is in the Great Gatsby, Daisy Buchanan, Jay Gatsby, and Tom Buchanan. And in Revolution 2020, that is Arti Pradhan, Raghav Kashyap, and Gopal Mishra. Here I have put the two original quoted from the novel to wants to prove the aspect of love, that is from Revolution 2020, when Chetan Bhagat is asking to Gopal this, you loved her? I smiled. Imagine every sadhu and priest in Varanasi, more than all the devotion put together. That's how much I loved her. From Gatsby, oh, you want too much. She cried to Gatsby, I love you now. It's Isn't that enough? I can't help what is past. She began to sob hopelessly. I did love him once, but I loved you too. There is the conflict of old money and new money, as well as the black money and white money. As we can say in both the novels, when the American society, when we see the depicted in the Great Gatsby, we can get the a vast kind of area of corruption, as well as in Revolution 2020. Aspect of timeline, because I have used the sub theory of genetic structuralism, we can I have also studied the two century and how the century is affecting to the age conscious, not only the individual conscious or the author's conscious, and we can get these points in that. So these are my work citation. Thank you.
Sorry, I was mute and I'm beginning my presentation. Okay. I am Jheel Barad, student of Department of English MKBU, and my today's presentation is on an adaptation study, Aravind Adiga's The White Tiger from Novel to Screen. Introduction. Adapting a novel into film has been a popular practice in the film industry for years. However, transforming literary work into visual storytelling requires significant changes in the narrative structure, characterization, and dialogue. The critically acclaimed film, The White Tiger, based on Aravind Adiga's novel, the novel which was also dedicated to the director, will be analyzed to highlight the importance of adaptation in a contemporary cinema. This presentation aims to provide a deeper understanding of the ways in which narratives can be transformed across different mediums. It demonstrates how adaptation can offer new dimension to the author's words and offer something new, exciting to audience while still honoring the source material. What is adaptation? As per the Sanders article, adaptation and appropriation. Adaptation is, however, frequently a specific process involving a transition from one genre to another. Novels into a film, drama into a musical, a dramatization of prose narrative and prose fiction, of the inverse movement of making drama into prose narrative. Adaptations can be defined into three ways: first, second, and third. Adaptation of literary classics, plays to screen, and adaptation of contemporary texts which are not determined as classics but have remained in the canon of popular literature. Adaptations are expansions or interpretation of the original storylines. As Linda Hutton has told, as acknowledged transposition of recognizable other works or works, a creative and an interpretative act of appropriation, salvaging and an extended intertextual engagement with the adapted work. Adaptations are done because of few reasons. That is, the creative process is already completed in the literary work. Modified text may draw larger variety of viewers to the neighborhood movie theater to teach masses about their literary heritage and expectations of financial rewards. And there are different three kinds of adaptation, that is literal, faithful, and loose. Moving towards the text, The White Tiger by Aravind Adiga is transformed into the movie with the same title by Ramin Bahrami. The novel was in 2008. It is a satire to critique India's political and social systems, and the same theme is taken into the movie, which was released on Netflix in 2021. In the analysis, in the aspect of narrative style, we see a large change. In the novel is in first person, and in which the narrator Balram Halwai is writing letters to a premier of China, while in the film it is third person and it is in the form. The time and space also differs, but the film is giving a definite time that it is Delhi 2007 when it begins, while the novel is not giving any specific time. Reception: novel is highly acclaimed and Booker Prize winner, while the film has been nominated. The novel is slow-paced, character-driven story, while the film is in a faster pace. There are changes in the storyline. The subplots are changed. The major one is the novel includes more details about the Balram's past and his relationship with his family, particularly to brother, while the film is changing various things in relation in character. They are both are depicting the same themes of satire of political and financial condition of India. In novel, all characters are well developed, while in the film we see the lack of growth in the characters. There is a use of humor in the both film and the novel. In the ending, we see that the novel has more ambiguous, open-ended ending. The film provides a more definitive, satisfying resolution of the story. The director has given various frames which gives a depth to the character of Balram Halwai. Due to time constraint, we will not discuss the frame, but these are few frames. In conclusion, I would like to say that adaptations of the novel into film can be challenging due to the differences in the mediums and the need of condense a lengthy story into shorter runtime. Changes to the story or characters may need to be made to make a story more engaging for the visual medium. Successful adaptation require a balance between staying true to the source material and making necessary changes for the film medium. Adaptations can provide a new way for audience to experience a beloved story. For those who have not read the book, the film adaptation can serve as an introduction to the story and may inspire them to read the book. These are my works cited. Thank you. नहीं क्या teach course है, एक मिनट. Thank you everyone, and thanks to all the attendees, participants for helping us to make our seminar successful. I would like to request both of our chairperson to express their reviews on the presentations done in this session.
Should we sit here or?
So very good afternoon to everybody. So it's a time of an evening. We are very frank admission. I have to make confession. We are not cruel by heart. To cut your time, we know that how to prepare the paper. Excellent paper. To prepare excellent paper, at least 1 month or 25 days are required, and we have suggested you because the organization and the organizer have told, sir, love your time schedule. So we are very sorry for that, to give you limited time. On the other hand, the paper presented here are highly scholarly activity is done here when the presenter had presented the issues. Right from, I cannot read the name of the presenter here, but I would like to read few names. CHITRA-M Manoharan is there, Sapna is there, L.Swathi is there, and Mr. Durai is that, scholar Bharati Ravi is that, Nayana George is that, Priya is that, and Smita is also there, Priya Darshini is that, Hirva is that, and all last Emisha and Jheel is also there. I would like to highlight one important thing, that the most of scholars have highlighted either women's issue, cultural issue, or the social issue, social stratification, where the women become the victims. This is a very, very appealing thing for me. I think it is the new trend of modern India with the help of digital devices. The women's voice is heard. So again, I'm talking when we cannot read your whole paper, listen your whole paper. The few papers are highly appealing, especially domestic violence during this COVID era. Then eco-criticism is also there. Then food politics. So new topics and new themes and new ideas to evaluate the Indian society and the society at large. So I'll request all the scholars, please don't feel anything about us, so we have not given you the enough time. But your papers have the great value. So you can send the paper to us. Us means the Department of English, and we will think over that. And I request organizers and that Professor Del Barad, if it is possible, we can also, as abstract is published, a paper can be also published. So please revise your paper. Don't feel anything about us, Maharaja Krishna Kumar Swiji, Bhavnagar University, and encourage yourself to raise the voice for the right track. Again, social stratification, political violence, domestic violence, digital use and abuse. All these topics, all the scholars have successfully and scholarly interpreted. I think and I feel, and I also give the voice to you that by hearing you in post-COVID era, the new India and the scholarship among the new Indians is emerging, and let us try to give the boost up and let us try to encourage them. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and sorry for not giving time.
Okay, most of the things have been said by my co-chairperson, but some of the points I would like to share with you. First of all, I am very happy to say that we admire, we appreciate your attempt that all the presenters presented their papers very nicely and effectively. Another thing, that if you focus on the topics, whatever the chosen by the presenters, I must say that the selection of the topics from different areas, from different fields, and the topics had a great variety. It was felt that the presenters did the hard work, especially to prepare their papers with novel ideas, to give something new. And then I must say that some of the papers were really full of creativity and innovation and with new ideas. I am also very sorry to say that I apologize due to lack of time. Actually, we were not able to give you the sufficient time, but I have the list of those presenters. I cannot name each and every one, but as sir said that some of the papers appealed us a lot. Most of the papers were related to domestic violence, related to women portion, and social and cultural aspect, regarding the political food zone, all the things. But these new ideas and these new things appeal us, and I must say that this is the generation that can just take or raise their voice and just to set a good example for better India. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, we are waiting for one more presenter, Parvani Sharma. I think she is here. Parvani Sharma, ma'am.
I am here.
Okay, sorry, ma'am, for the inconvenience you had to face. We
It's
will
okay.
take
I
your
can
presentation,
understand.
but we request you to be little brief and complete your presentation in 5 minutes as we are running out of time.
Sure.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure. I am Parvani Sharma, working as an assistant professor at M.B. Patel Science College, Anand, since 2014. The topic of my paper is reflecting self-reliance of Kutchi women in selected Kutchi Shram Gits. So as we are running out of time, so I just give the whole idea, because it is not possible to go one by one song, and I cannot explain these all songs. So I give the whole idea. Kutch is a land of diverse ancient cultures survived in their original form even today. And one of the popular forms of Kutchi oral literature is Kutchi folk songs. There are various categories of Kutchi folk songs, and they are Sanskar Gits, Utsav Gits, Lagna Gits, Marasya, Shram Gits. And among these all categories, I have selected category of Shram Gits only. And for that, I have selected 5 songs. Shram Gits are sung while working in groups to set the rhythm. It reduces the boredom of the repetitive task. Labor work is hard and tedious, so it often includes singing by the workers. In this way, tedious work turns into fun. One sings and other repeats, and somehow hardships of work lessons. We can observe less number of Shram Geets in Kutchi oral literature, and the reason for is that the communities of cattle herders, such as Rabari, Barad, and Jat, constantly moves from one to another region with their cattle due to irregularities of rain. Thus, they cannot do stable activities such as farming. And the second reason is that the cattle herders express their culture more with the instruments such as Jodia Pava, Morchang, Nal. So there is a little scope for creation of Shram Geets by these all communities. This is why Kutchi oral literature has the Shram Geets in Kutchi oral literature are not impressive. The small number of songs are precious though. I have selected, as I had told, I have selected 5 Kutchi Shram Geets, and the first one is already famous, and that is Gajio Mujo Jor Jalanu. In this song describes the hardships of Kutchi women who do labor work to earn money. It also depicts the inherent spirit of self-reliance among Kutchi women, because in this song, woman is working hard. She is carrying this heavy gajia. Gajia is brick that are made from cement. So she is doing this labor work and she is earning for herself. She works hard to fulfill her wish of having more jewelry. So she is not dependent on her male partner or any other relatives. She is not asking them to buy jewelry for her. She is making herself capable of buying it, and self-dependency is the beauty of these all 5 Shram Geets. The second two are from fishing community of Kutch, and the same theme is also observed here. These two songs, in these two songs, fisherwoman sells fish, and she values her fish as precious as her jewelry. The fourth song is about Dhabo Kutyo na Kutyo Ben. Dhabo Silme Silai. This is the fourth one song, and this song is sung by Kutchi women while designing the floor with mud and cow dung of their house. This song is also the love for ornament is also explicit in this
In
song
this song
also.
also.
So,
Hello, Parvani
the
ma'am.
yes,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
I have to
I have
conclude
to
my
conclude
paper.
my
Yeah,
paper.
yeah, yeah.
No problem.
No
So,
problem. So the
okay.
okay.
By concluding, after discussing these 5 Shram Geets, I found 4 noticeable aspects, and that are self-reliance of Kutchi women, love for ornaments, and desire to have more, strong bonding with the other woman, that is sisterhood, and the last one is community building, community of working women. Kutchi women will earn money, save them, and buy her favorite jewelry with the money she earned by working hard. Unlike one of our famous Gujarati song, that is Chela Jire Mari Hatu Patan Thi Patola Moklavjo, she doesn't want to rely on men for fulfilling her wish to buy jewelry. She makes herself financially independent, and thus she can earn bread and also ornaments for her too. Thank you. This is all.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, and sorry for making you do your presentation in a brief and fast.
I hope, but I think you, all of you get little bit, at least a little bit.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Okay, now all the online presenters, as they are informed before, will be given their certificates in an email in a soft copy. We two volunteers who have also presented their paper in a physical form here will be given certificate by the chairperson. First, Emisha Ravani will take a certificate by Gaijan sir. Now myself, Zil Barad, will take my certificate from Bhavesh Parmar sir. Thanks to all the attendees, participants to participate in our this national seminar. On the behalf of Department of English, congratulations to all the participants for their national seminar and a warm thanks from our side for taking participation in this seminar on a short notice and help us to make it successful. Thank you. And I'm ending our live session here.